Yeah. Hello everybody. This is Madrea here at the Eco Yoga Village in northwest New South Wales. Today's subject is who was the Buddha? Very interesting question. I heard I believe he was the head of the divinity department at Harvard University, definitely a professor there, speaking about this subject, and he said the little secret of Buddhism is that we don't actually have that much, if any, very strong, firm historical knowledge about the Buddha. And basically that is because everything was written down a few centuries later. So we have an oral tradition for some time, and oral traditions do tend to be a little bit fluid, a little bit organic. And anyway, that's not all I'll say on the subject, but it's a little bit of a starter. Buddha was born, or was teaching, in the 25th or 25 centuries ago, 5th century BC, which is the 400s BC, and his name was Siddhartha Gautama. He was born in, some people say, as a prince, or at least a kind of wealthy, well-off family. And it seems that his father or his family made some endeavor to protect him from the vagaries, from the inebrities of this world. And it differs, in terms of the hyperbole or in terms of the exact details. But basically he lived quite a sheltered life, a rich son's life. And then sometime in his 20s, he had somewhat of a profound experience, a little bit of an awakening. He suddenly became aware at a deep level of the troubles of this world, the dukkha's, the sufferings of this world. Old age, disease, death, anxiety, stress, like that. And to some degree realized that this truth of suffering, which is the first noble truth of Buddhism, is more or less ubiquitous. It is all-pervasive throughout this world. You may be rich, you may be poor, you may be this, you may be that, you may be this country, this culture, that culture, but some suffering is there, more or less. So he had something of a awakening at that time, and he decided to renounce his pampered life, his luxurious life, and try for something greater, try for enlightenment. His first attempt was as a tapasvi, as a person who practices austerities. And although some of the books I've read, they differ in the details, basically that means, I read one book that said he was living on dry leaves and bird poo that would fall down, and then he would take that, or take some dry leaf, and he would meditate in the forest. And he had some tapasvi friends, then they would practice austerities together, and he did that for some time. This brings to mind a philosopher called Hegel, who, if you've heard of that thesis, antithesis, synthesis, this is Hegel. Something like that. The Buddha went from a very pampered life, a very sense-gratificatory life, to the opposite, to the antithesis, to a austere life, no worldly pleasures at all. And after experiencing both of those, he then chose a different path, what some people call the golden middle way, the golden middle path. And therein he created, or he inaugurated, this Buddhism as we know it. So, Buddhism is basically a very, very broad spiritual tradition with all sorts of things going on in it at different times and places. Ancestor worship, worship of demigods, Shunyavad, Buddhist philosophy, theistic philosophy, polytheistic philosophy, Very sort of simple psychological practices just for becoming happier and healthier. All sorts of things going under the name of Buddhism. But the core tenets are four, which are called the Four Noble Truths. And they are dukkha, to know suffering, samudaya, to know the cause of suffering, nirodha, which is to understand that there is the possibility of the cessation of all suffering, which you may have heard that word, nirvana. And then finally, the fourth noble truth is magga, which literally means the path or the road. And that fourth step is broken up into 8 parts, which is called the the Eightfold Path. So I think we'll leave it there for today. Little introduction to Buddhism. And yeah, hope you're all happy and healthy. And we'll see you next time. Take care.